in favour of this motion, and may I gently say to the Minister and indeed to the Government that if the Government is not prepared to be bound by the terms of this motion, and I'm going to put it in this way, we're not messing about here anymore. This is grown-up, serious stuff. This is no longer some sort of debate on the fringes of politics where people can follow long-held ideological dreams that they've had for decades. The country has voted, 52% of those that voted, to leave the European Union. And people like me accept we're going to leave the European Union. But I'm not going to stand by and see the future of my children's generation, the grandchildren that I hope will follow, being trashed and ruined without any form of debate and disclosure as to the consequences and arguably the options that might be available as disclosed in all these documents that cover, as we know, so many sectors in so many ways. So this is grown-up, serious stuff. The days of carping from the sidelines, I say to honourable members on this side, have gone. You've won, you're in charge of this, now you have to face up to the responsibility of delivering a Brexit that works for everybody in this country and for generations to come. So what's the problem? If the Government is not going to be bound by this motion, vote against it. If you abstain, you agree to it and you will abide by it. As I say, these are serious matters. And then I will take the extra minute.
I thank the right honourable lady for giving me. I find myself in a strange position that I agree with everything she is saying. And she is making a very sensible and rational speech. Does she agree with me that the irony is that some of our colleagues who so seek to have a sovereign, more powerful, more transparent parliament, by not agreeing the result of this motion are actually damaging democracy and damaging Parliament's ability and those who sit in it to do their jobs?
I do agree with the Honourable Lady. And of course, this debate, let us be clear, this debate has always brought to people across the political divide. So as we know, there are many people in the Labour Party who have supported Leave, and there are many Conservatives who supported Remain. It transcends the normal political divide. I agree very much with the Honourable Lady. And let me say also this, the reason why it is so important that we know what's in these documents, because I have to say, Mr. Deputy Speaker, I'm getting a bit of a feeling here. You see, I rather take the view that there might be stuff in these huge impact assessments which perhaps honourable members on this side don't want to put out into the public domain. They can redact every single piece of sensitive, commercially sensitive material in it, as they should. If there's anything that undermines the security of our country, that too must be redacted. But I'm getting a rather strong feeling that if it said that everything in a post-Brexit world, whatever the options might be for that final deal, was going to be brilliant and rosy and wonderful, this wonderful new world that awaits us, I rather get the impression they'd be the first people to stand up and say to the Government, disclose these impact documents, let the people see what wonders await them in this wonderful new world post-Brexit. So, what's the problem? And I must say to the Honourable Member for Wokingham, as he represents all those fishing men and women that live in Wokingham, but I genuinely say to the Honourable Gentleman, how on earth can he say that we shouldn't disclose all these documents because it would undermine the negotiations if he hasn't seen them in the first place, or even some form of summary of them. But the implication is quite clear. There's something in them that's not to be disclosed because it might actually prick this golden bubble, this balloon of the promised land of Brexit. My constituents are entitled to know the consequences of the various options that are available to this Government as it negotiates the transition and then, most importantly, the final deal. My constituents are concerned about their own jobs, and so are the businesses, and of course I'll take that intervention.
For giving way. And would she agree with me that her constituents, and indeed my constituents, have the right to know the costs of particularly of the no-deal Brexit option? The Government are currently refusing to answer parliamentary questions that I've put down, asking how much each department is putting aside for Brexit contingency planning for a no-deal. Doesn't she believe that information should be in the public domain?
And of course, other honourable members have talked about the impact that they fear for either their constituency or their part of our great country, and they are right. How can local authorities, how can businesses, how can chambers of commerce, all these other people that make our country have the great economy, the jobs and prosperity that we have and which we need in the future, how can they plan those things? How can they make important decisions? And how can we as a country come together, as people say we should, heal the divide between the 52 and the 48, which we have failed to do? How can we do all those things unless we are open with people and we are frank with people and we tell them and bring them into the discussion about what Brexit is going to look like and what final deal can be secured for our country? Because we've got, and we now know, whatever the Right Honourable learned gentleman on the front bench says about where the government has or hasn't been in its policy, it is now clear through the excellent speech of the Prime Minister what we want from the transition deal. Her Florence speech was very clear about that, and of course it was widely welcomed. And let's be honest, what happened then? The usual noises off, trying to undermine it, trying to destabilise that position. But thankfully the Prime Minister has stood firm, and full credit to her now. But even now, at this moment, my government still hasn't worked out what its policy is for that final deal. And the usual voices continue to make their absolutely irresponsible argument that we must have some sort of no deal. Off the cliff edge, the most irresponsible, most dangerous thing that could possibly happen to our economy and for the generations. I absolutely will.
She puts her name to an amendment to the withdrawal bill that gives the power to Parliament to prevent there from being a deal.
Absolute nonsense, if I may say, to my right honourable friend. What that amendment does, and I hope he might support it, because what it's all about, what is at its heart, is what he has said to the British people he believes in. It's about taking back control in this Parliament, not relying on arguments from the right honourable gentleman for the 19th century who actually suggested that this Parliament might be bound by a decision, heaven forbid, in a foreign Parliament, Mr. Deputy Speaker. The Canadians, I thought we voted to take back control. And it's absolutely right. One of the most important decisions this country has ever made, what Brexit looked like, should be put into this House. It is a crying shame we have had no debates, no binding motions or votes on the future of our country. Generations will judge us on that. And I finally say that I stood and I warned about the consequences to my party unless it stood up for everybody in this country and abandoned the hard Brexit. I was ignored. We lost our majority. There are millions of people who feel they are unrepresented by any political party. I hope my party now changes that, erases the 48.